To the council chambers, this is the convening of the Cottonwood Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood for presentation of proclamations, awards, and introduction of new city employees to be held on September 17, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. We are joined today by our full council. We have Councilmember Nairn, Vice Mayor Henry, Councilmember Althouse, Councilmember Jauregui, Hulse, and Councilmember Matthews. Thanks to you all for being here. We have 3 proclamations to read tonight, and I'll start with proclaiming September 28th, 2019 as Verde River Day. So whereas the Verde River is a riparian resource that winds its way through the heart of Cottonwood and the Verde Valley, and whereas the citizens of Cottonwood cherish our natural environment, and whereas Cottonwood's most precious natural resource, the Verde River corridor, reflects our community, who we are, and why we live here, and whereas the Verde River corridor is a welcome and an essential bed and breakfast for neotropical birds on the arduous migration path between northern and southern Americas, and whereas more than 340 bird species have been recorded flying, trilling, and resting along the green riparian pathway, and some of the highest breeding bird densities of any North American habitat exist in the Verde River riparian area. And whereas the Verde River is a unique and important environmental and economic resource, it contains a significant amount of the riparian habitat left in Arizona, where 85% of all wildlife in the area looks for sustenance and is critical to the survival of numerous native aquatic and terrestrial species. And whereas the Verde River is a significant water supply and recreational corridor, and whereas we risk losing this treasure if we don't strategize together to preserve it for future generations. And whereas Arizonans must continue our work to successfully find accommodation for all the roles that rivers play. And whereas Verde River Day was organized in 1988 to promote awareness of the Verde River's distinctive riparian habitat. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Tim ELINSKI, the Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim September 28th, 2019 as Verde River Day in Cottonwood. And we have Tracy from our chamber here this evening to come up and accept this proclamation. And I'm pleased to see my 2 daughters in the room tonight too, because both of them, when they were born, got their feet dipped in the Verde River. So it plays a crucial role in their lives too. So here you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a couple photos here.
Okay. Go ahead, Rudy. I'm just on the sidebar here.
Oh, yeah. One of these days. It's on our agenda. We're going to get it fixed.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3. Hold on just a second. One more. Awesome.
Great. Did you want to say a few words about the Verde River Day coming up?
Just
No.
I invite everybody to come out, enjoy the day, all the free events and the food and everything that's educational, and learn about the river, the conservation of it, and what it means to our community.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is proclaiming September as Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background, and whereas in the United States, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults, and whereas each person's death by suicide intimately affects at least 6 other people, with over 200,000 newly bereaved each year, and whereas many of those people who died may never have received effective behavioral health services for many reasons, including the difficulty of accessing services by healthcare providers trained in best practices to reduce suicide risk, the stigma of using behavioral health treatment, and the stigma associated with losing a loved one to suicide. And whereas the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and can be reached by calling 1-800-272-8255. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Tim ELINSKI, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, on behalf of the Cottonwood City Council, do hereby proclaim September as Suicide Prevention Month in Cottonwood and urge everyone to learn how they can help prevent suicide. We don't have anyone here this evening to accept the proclamation, but I would just like to say that we're really fortunate in our community to have Spectrum, and that our law enforcement agencies work so well with Spectrum, and I think they do a great job in helping prevent suicide and just create a lot of awareness around behavioral health in our community. So thanks to them. Okay, last proclamation of the evening is proclaiming October 6th through 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Cottonwood, Arizona is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Cottonwood. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. Whereas home fires killed 2,630 people in the United States in 2017, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 357,000 home fires. And whereas the fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to U.S. fire departments was 4% higher in 2017 than in 1980. And whereas Cottonwood residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Cottonwood residents should make sure everyone in the home knows how to call 911 or the local emergency number from a cell phone or a neighbor's phone. And whereas Cottonwood residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, Plan and Practice Your Escape," effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. Therefore, I, Tim ELINSKI, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, do hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all the people of Cottonwood to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Cottonwood's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2019, and to not allow me to cook in the kitchen because that undoubtedly will set off the fire alarms and frighten everyone in the neighborhood. We have Chief Kirkendall, I think, this evening to accept this proclamation. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Still give the mic.
Just Fire Prevention Week commemorates the Great Chicago Fire. I think it was 1871. I'm not sure, but we set aside every week to remind people that fire safety is critical to our community, not just to individuals, but to our community as a whole. Any fire loss is a loss for the community.
Right, exactly. All right, next is awards. We're going to have the Vice Mayor come up to present these awards.
Good evening. This evening, we're recognizing the years of service of our two most seasoned council members. And before anybody complains by seasoned, I mean years of experience, not age. It's easy to underestimate the importance of local government when compared to the attention given to the elected officials and the issues at both the state and the federal level. In my opinion, local government is the most important level of government because of the direct impact that our decisions have on the day-to-day lives of this community. In order to represent the city well, you have to work hard, and honestly, you're never really off the clock. The hard work and dedication involved makes these awards tonight that much more important. Every year during the annual conference, the League of Arizona Cities and Towns presents service awards to recognize local elected officials who have reached certain dates of service. It's important to remember that only service as a local elected official counts for these awards. Both of our honorees tonight have devoted countless hours to other organizations in the community besides the City Council. The lanes of service that qualify for recognition, according to the League, are 8, 12, 16, 20, and 24 years. And then if anybody's brave enough to serve after that, you get recognized every 4 years in increments after that. Today, we are recognizing Mayor ELINSKI and Councilmember Jáuregui for their years of service. Neither of them were able to attend the annual League conference in Tucson this year in order to be recognized in front of all of the hundreds of attendees. I'd like to think that tonight we make up for in quality what we might lack in quantity. So thank you, everybody. Our first award is from Mayor ELINSKI. Mayor, if you don't mind joining me at the podium, please. Tim was appointed to fill a vacancy on the council in August of 2006. That was to fill a term that expired in June of 2009. Tim then ran for office in the spring 2009 election, and was elected in March 2009 to serve a 4-year term as a council member. Again in 2013 when he served for 3 years before resigning to run for mayor. Tim was elected as mayor in November of 2016 for a 4-year term. Somebody much better at math than I am determined that that adds up to 12 years of service. So, Mayor, I'd like to give you this plaque honoring your 12 years of service as an elected official, and thank you very much. Got that back. I'd also like to ask Ruth Ellen and family to come and join us for a photograph, if you would, please.
Dollies too.
Yes.
Dollies are all.
Dollies included.
Besides that.
Many years.
One, two, three. Awesome. Thank you.
Good job.
Our next award is for Councilmember Jáuregui. Ruben, if you don't mind joining me at the podium, please. Ruben was elected in May of 1995 as a council member. He then did resign to run for mayor in January of 97 and was elected as mayor in March of 1997. It's my understanding that at that time the mayoral terms were for 2 years and not 4.
Exactly.
So Ruben was then elected as mayor in 1999, which is when the mayor's seat was changed to a 4-year term, and then Ruben was elected as mayor again in 2003. Following a short break from politics in 2007, Ruben was again elected to serve on the council as a council member in 2011. He was re-elected again as a council member in 2015. Councilmember Jáuregui, it's my pleasure to present you with this League of Arizona Cities and Towns Award and to thank you for your 20 years of service. Thank you.
Mike.
Little Photoshop it. Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words?
Who'd have thought I'd be here 20 years later? The 20 years were not continuous. The fine people of this community felt that at one point I was doing such a great job that I needed a couple of years off. They elected somebody else, you know. But then I came back, and I guess I wasn't finished yet, but I appreciate this community. My wife and I, we moved here with our kids because we wanted the community to be involved with, and we did exactly that, you know, through girls softball, through the Girl Scouts, and a number of situations. So mission accomplished there. So we thank you, the public, for your support, staff, and I think 20 years is probably more than enough.
I'll say too that would not have imagined that I would be here 12 years later. If you add the appointed years on, it even goes back further. But for those of you who don't know, I got involved in politics being kind of a critic of something that was going on in my neighborhood. So that's really what brought me forward into service, and it's kind of an interesting way to come around into service. But you know, what really brought me to apply for being appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to council was the fact that I cared very much about what was happening in my neighborhood and my community. And, you know, 12 years, 14, 15 years later, I'm still here. And really what it boils down to is just, you know, once you get into office like this and you realize that you can make a difference, and when you care as much as we all up here do, you realize that's just enough to keep you going and going, because you want to give back as much as you possibly can and make as positive a difference as you possibly can. So that's what's kept me here. I'm very fortunate to have had mentors like Ruben Jáuregui. I got on the council when he was mayor. He's been a great mentor. We have some longstanding staff did she retire already? Is she?
She
Mary Ann.
said she's heard this before.
But really, we've got a great community with some long tenured employees and some really passionate and dedicated people. So it's really just an honor to serve. So I really appreciate all of you giving me the opportunity. And enough of that. I think the Vice Mayor has just secured her role in doing this from now forward. You did such a great job. I think I'm going to stand aside. Okay. Last but not least, we have one new employee to introduce. We have, I believe, Marie Carpenter will introduce this employee tonight. It's a new communications specialist, Daniel Robson.
Thank you, Mayor ELINSKI and Council. It's my pleasure to introduce our newest communications specialist. He joined us on Monday, and his name is Daniel Robson. Daniel is an Arizona native. He grew up in Phoenix, Chandler to be exact, graduated from Chandler High School, moved to Texas, and moved back to Arizona from Kyle, Texas. Loves Arizona, loves the weather here in Cottonwood, and he is what I would call a unicorn. Trying to find somebody who has the aptitude and the attitude to thrive as a communications specialist in public safety, to do well both in the police role, the call-taking role, and the fire role. He's already proven that he can do that with his experience. He's got 3.5 years of experience working for the San Marcos city, doing police, fire, medical, call-taking. So he really is a unicorn. He's already demonstrated his experience, so it's really exciting to bring a lateral dispatcher on here at Cottonwood. Before he was a police, fire, and EMS dispatcher, he worked for the jail at Williamson County SO. He's got about a year of experience in corrections as well, so he's going to fit in just fine in our center. He is also the father of 3 boys. They're 15, 10, and 7, bless your heart. He's got an amazing wife. They've been together a little over 9 years. And yes, he has one pet. He has a black lab. Her name is Jenny. And they made the trip all together from Texas, just recently relocated over here. But since he grew up in the Arizona, going to high school and stuff, he also studied criminal justice at ASU. And that's all we'll say about that. And then we'll move on. He spent a lot of time up here with the Eagle Scouts, getting familiar with the backwoods. So he's really, he's just right at home here. He's really good at memorizing information. He said something about memorizing information that's useful or not so useful. Random, yeah, okay. But he's been studying like crazy these last 2 days. He's been on with us, and he's already got our codes memorized. Every agency has to have their own lingo and language. He's starting to pick up ours. He's done a ride along, getting to know the area, not just the back areas, but the actual city. But what's really amazing is that before he actually started on payroll with us, he started doing ride-alongs with other jurisdictions just to get to know the areas we serve. So I really appreciate you taking that initiative and getting to know our areas. Love sports, camping, hiking. And I will say, yes, you are a big ASU fan, and we love you anyway. So it's my pleasure to welcome Daniel to our team and to our family. And you want to say a few words?
No, I'm good.
Oh, Nooka's shy now. We'll get a picture with everybody. I'm not like block anybody out. We don't mind. We'll get like in between. There we go.
Okay, one more time.
Thank you.
Okay. That wraps up our pre-meeting. We're going to meet again at 6 o'clock, so please stick around.